On this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.
I don't think there's ever such thing as trying too hard.
People that are Giants fans, real Giants fans, like, I hope whenever I'm done playing, they say, you know what, Darius Slayton, like, I loved when he was a Giant.
You got to get Wan'Dale Robinson the ball, and with his explosive speed, can also be a game breaker.
So your work is not done with Metcalf once you cover him.
JMS, it's Monday Night Football.
And we welcome you to another edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Monday night, it's the Giants and Seahawks at MetLife Stadium. As always, we're joined by the head coach of the New York Giants, Brian Daboll, and two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. And Coach, you had a chance to recharge a little bit over the weekend, get some stuff done. When you looked at the San Francisco game, there were a lot of opportunities in that football game. That's got to be encouraging after what happened, in week one and then the first half of week two.
Yeah, a lot of things that we could do better, but there's some things we did well too. The effort and the energy that the players played with was good. The execution part of it, we have to clean up some of those things, and I know that's what we'll work at this week. But we got to do the right things on a consistent basis, which our group does week in and week out in terms of our preparation process. We got to take it to the field and perform and coach better.
Coach, when you look at some of the opportunities you had defensively, some interception opportunities there. Like you said, the effort is there. It's not like guys were out of place. Is it easier to make those corrections when you know guys are where they're supposed to be? Is it a matter of, I guess, just a sense of awareness of the moment?
Yeah, I think what we've tried to create, Carl, is when you come in after a win or after a loss, to be able to take corrections with a positive mindset. And that's for the coaches and for the players. So, again, there was some opportunities there that, we just quite didn't make. But you address what you need to address with them. You coach it better. They take it and they take the feedback and make sure that the next time it comes up that they're on it.
Coach, with regard, you got a couple sacks in the game. Still haven't gotten a takeaway yet. Does it sometimes get to a point where guys are so focused on it that you try too hard?
No, I don't think there's ever such thing as trying too hard. We have to be able to get the ball. That's no secret. We've given up 5 this year. Last year, after 3 games, we gave up 3. If you equate every turnover to 40 yards, roughly of field position, that's over 200 yards of field position, and we haven't gotten any. We've been close, but that's something where we work tackling circuits every week. Ball disruption every week. We have to continue to work it, and it has to translate to football games because turnovers are probably the number one reason for the result that you want.
So you weren't working officially over the course of the weekend. Obviously, a head coach is always working. Did you watch games on Sunday to see things that are going on that maybe it's something that you bring up with your own team?
Yeah, spent a lot of time this weekend working and watching our 3 games that we've played. Went back to last season, watched our first 3 games there, looked at stuff that we could do better as a coaching staff, maybe some different techniques. But I don't think you ever stop working, and this was a good time to be able to do that and have a little bit of time, and then spent a lot of time on Seattle, and then definitely saw, watch the Seattle game against Carolina on TV. And again, those games that you watch, learning lessons of situations that come up, and I'm on the phone with Kate or Ty as, hey, how do we handle this, or what's your suggestion here? So a lot of work that needed to be done. It was a good week to catch up on a lot of different things, and spent a lot of time doing film work.
All right, great stuff, Coach. You're going to rejoin us later on in the program. We'll preview the Seahawks. When we come back on the show, we'll talk with Darius Slayton here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October the 8th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt, and after the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. On Monday night, it's the Giants and Seahawks. Now time for our interview with Giants wide receiver Darius Slayton.
You're talking 3 games in 12 days. Now you've got 11 days in between games. Your 5th year, what is the vet side of you like? The 3 in 12 or 1 game every 11 days?
Yeah, this is actually the first time that I've experienced this, though, where it was like we were on the West Coast for that long and we played a back-to-back Sunday, Thursday night.
Yep.
Not something that I'd love to do a lot more in my career, but obviously it's more advantageous for us as players, having the 11-day break to get ready for a Monday night game, because this gives you time, your body, your mind, because even though whatever, when you're out there, it's a business trip the whole time.
Yeah.
It's even if we have downtime at the hotel, it's you're not gonna sit up there and go be in Phoenix till 2 a.m. because you gotta still go to practice the next day. So it's whereas when you're home, it's just more relaxed. If you have an off day at home, it's you can kind of do what you want to do. But when we're out there, you're kind of stuck in a hotel. So you're constantly in this, work, and this is just a good time to break mentally and physically.
When you guys watch, as a receiver room, you guys watch the second half of the Arizona game, and then you watch the Thursday night football game with San Francisco. When you're walking out of that meeting room, after breaking down that film, what's the discussion you're having with a Paris Campbell, a Jalen Hyatt, Sterling Shepard? What are you guys talking about?
Yeah, I think for us, receiver is a very it's not like running back where they just hand you the ball.
Yeah.
So as a receiver, it's very easy to get frustrated because it takes a lot for you to get the ball. And then if you get a chance to get the ball, if something doesn't go right in that, whether you run a bad route and the DB breaks it up, whatever it is, it's very easy to walk away from a game and feel I had no chance to impact the outcome. I feel maybe I should have more, whatever. But, I think you always have to have the mindset of whether you had 20 targets or you had 2, all you can do is maximize the ones that you did get, and I think walking away from that 49ers game, we definitely had some opportunities to maximize some of the chances we had to get the ball, and that's whether, you felt like you could have had more or not.
When you're looking at this Seahawks secondary, where do you think you guys can attack?
They're young on the perimeter at corner. They're talented. Obviously the Woolen kid is made a lot of noise his rookie year. He's tall, he's fast. The other kid they have is a rookie this year, but he's a first-round pick. Witherspoon, yeah. So he's obviously, you don't go in the first round unless you're a talented player. But, obviously another big talented kid. And then obviously in the back end, we got our guy back there, Julian Love, familiar face. I know what he is. Played with him for 4 years, and Quandre Diggs is a good vet, and Jamal Adams, I believe, is supposed to be back healthy. So, they have some experience in their back end, but at the same time, youth can always be an advantage because there's only so much you can know.
Obviously, you're very big on chemistry, and you're very big on sticking up for Daniel Jones. How cool is that guy, just in terms of his demeanor and his overall leadership?
As calm as can be. This is a crazy city with crazy amount of media. The amount of scrutiny that, he's under as being the quarterback at all times it can't even be, measured, and the fact that he just manages to stay even keel and, not ever respond or ever get out of, his emotions, let his emotions get the best of him, is something that there's a really, really small percentage of people that would be able to do that.
You're one of those small percentage of people. You've been through a lot when it comes to this organization. Pay cuts, healthy scratches. How did you navigate all that?
I don't know. I've never felt the need to defend myself.
Okay.
To me, it's always I'll defend myself with my play. There's ultimately nothing to say if I don't give you anything to say.
Okay.
So that's kind of the approach I've always taken. I just try to take everything in stride, man. At the end of the day, blessed to be here. For me, this was something that I dreamed about from the day I could breathe. And this was plan A, and the only plan was for me to get here. So in those moments, I just kind of remind myself of that even though I'm not necessarily maybe where I want to be per se, at the end of the day, as long as I'm healthy and I have a chance to play this game that I love, I have to be grateful and, just continue to work hard, and my opportunity will come.
Last question. When you walk away from the game that you love, how do you want to be remembered?
I think just for me, people that are Giants fans, real Giants fans, I hope whenever I'm done playing, they say, you know what, Darius Slayton, like I loved when he was a Giant. Like I loved when he played. Like he played hard. He always fought. He was a really good player for us. And as long as, that's the situation I put myself in, I'll be happy.
Man, this has been cool, man. Glad you kind of peeled back some layers and allowed the fans to see the real Darius Slayton.
So.
Giants are going to need Darius Slayton to step up throughout the course of the season. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, head-to-head with Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Monday night, Giants and Seahawks at MetLife Stadium. Now time for head-to-head. Here's Paul Dottino and Sean O'Hara.
Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of key matchups for the Giants and the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Sean, first up, we're going to look at middle linebacker Bobby Wagner for Seattle against Giants rookie center John Michael Schmitz. Wagner is in his 12th season in the National Football League. He has gone to the Pro Bowl 8 times, and for his career, he's averaged 9 tackles a game. In Week 1 against the Rams, which is where he played last year, he had 18 stops, which was only 2 short of his career high. He is the number 1 reason why Seattle is number 3 in NFL rushing defense, allowing less than 3 yards per game.
You can see, he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. He knows the game. He's very smart. He's seen it all, like you talked about, and just how football instinctive he is, and it shows on tape.
JMS, as I like to call John Michael Schmitz. Paulie, get ready. I know you're going to be ready for Monday Night Football. JMS, it's Monday Night Football. All right, you get a chance on prime time. I know you grew up watching Monday Night Football along with every other night that we have football on during the week, but this is huge, and you get to play against one of the best linebackers in the game right now. I know JMS is fired up for this. This is going to be a little cat and mouse game. As a center, one of my biggest jobs was to get to the mic. JMS, that's your challenge. In the run game, you've got to account for the Mike linebacker. So for John Michael Schmitz, the combo blocks and in the run game, a lot of the times you get matched up. Now, Bobby is one of the stealthiest and one of the smartest linebackers in the league. He's got long arms to go with it. So he's a tough guy to block. He's a tough guy to get to. And while he's later on in his career, he still has great instincts to fly to the football. So that's going to be a big challenge for it. I'm focusing on the run game mostly because Bobby Wagner is not much of a blitzer. You mentioned his impact in the run game, the 18 tackles in Week 1. I think John Michael Schmitz has done a really good job in pass protection with his anchor. He's been very strong, very stout. The one thing he just needs to work on is passing off some twists and some stunts with his guard. So that's something that they'll look to exploit. If Bobby does pressure, there's probably going to be some sort of a twist mixed up with that. But this will be a fun little matchup to watch, and I know for John Michael Schmitz, he's looking forward to that.
One of the things that you notice about Schmitz is that he makes the good line calls, or the correct line calls, as we say. The Giants are doing very well in the red zone, which is where that's important. 63% efficiency, which is 12th in the National Football League. Okay, we go to our next matchup, and we've got wide receiver Tyler Lockett against Tay Banks of the Giants, their rookie #1 draft choice. Now, Lockett is coming off 4 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. For his career, he's averaged 13 yards a catch. Not so much so far this year. However, let's keep in mind 47 touchdown receptions since the start of the 2018 season. That's tied for 5th in the NFL. This guy can be a real problem. So Tyler Lockett has 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. When you look at a guy with that kind of experience and that kind of success, what is the way you will break it down as you try to stop him?
I'm gonna really just try to stop everything that he does as a whole, his releases, how he run his routes. You feel me? Just try to get a little heads up on him, just to see how he move, how he run his routes, stuff like that.
I've been so impressed with Deonte Banks and how physical he is. It seems to me that he just loves press coverage. He loves being able to get his hands on guys. So that's going to be key. And I think for him versus Tyler Lockett, that's in his favor. He's bigger, he's stronger than Tyler Lockett, but they like to move Tyler around. So you'll see a lot of pre-snap motions with Tyler Lockett. They'll bring him in on the move so that you can't press him. And they like to move him from the outside into the slot. That's where he does a lot of his damage. So that being said, Tyler Lockett, one of his biggest attributes is his speed. The 2 touchdowns you see right here, one of them was the game winner against Detroit, but his first touchdown, it was just straight up what I call a track meet. And it was basically a foot race between him and the corner to the other side of the field. And Geno Smith just lays the ball out and he just runs under him. So there's going to be a couple of opportunities where it's going to look like a 100-meter dash between Lockett and Banks. So we'll see that top end speed in that matchup. Now, for Banks, this is a big game. Look, he went against CeeDee Lamb in week 1. He just went against Deebo Samuel and company. Again, no weeks off in the NFL. Tyler Lockett, in addition to DK Metcalf, this will be an interesting challenge to watch.
I want to look at this 3 passes defense for Banks. Opposing quarterbacks are only 3 of 7 for 30 yards when targeting him in the passing game. And by the way, Banks has 7 tackles on the season. 5 of them have come against the running game. He is as physical as they come. Well, that'll do it for this week's edition of Head to Head. Let's go back to Bob.
Well, Carl, another big test for these young Giants corners. Lockett's a veteran. Metcalf is a young veteran and a physical player.
Yeah, look, they bring various styles, both of these wide receivers, but they're both physical and they're both competitive. So these defensive backs, this young defensive backfield, will have to play their assignments, but they've got to be prepared to play a physical game.
Yeah, and compete for the football because Metcalf and Lockett both attack the ball when it's in the air. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, Madeline Burke joins us for Over Under here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for Over Under. Here's Madeline Burke with Sean O'Hara and Amani Toomer.
Thanks so much. Time for a little Week 4 Over-Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. You know the rules. We'll go around the horn and decide if we think over or under on the following stats as the Seahawks visit MetLife to take on the Giants on Monday Night Football. Sean, I'll start with you. Over under 225 passing yards for Daniel Jones on Monday night.
I'm going to go over on this one, and not just because it's Monday Night Football and it's prime time, but the Seattle Seahawks defense has given up over 300 yards passing in all 3 of their games. So I think this is a big opportunity for the Giants offense. Seattle's more of a zone defense. So as long as there's enough time and protection for DJ, I think he could carve up this defense and definitely go over 225.
I'm agree with you. I think they go over, and I think it's a lot. Wan'Dale Robinson's coming back. He's a guy that is a good safety blanket for the middle of the field. Also, Darren Waller, I feel he's going to have a much better week than he did. He's going to be more like the Waller in the second half of the Cardinals game than in last week's game. So I just feel like they're due. They're due for outbreaking. I think Daniel Jones is ready to kind of take that next step on Monday night in prime time. I'm definitely going to go over.
I'm going to take the over as well. Look at us, in agreement across the board. And even though Jamal Adams is coming back for the Seahawks defense, I do think that the way that this defense has played so far is going to be an opportunity for Daniel Jones to air it out. All right, Amani Toomer, over under 1.5 takeaways for the Giants defense.
Ooh, I want to be positive and I want to say yes, but the reality is this is a team that is turnoverly challenged. They haven't got many turnovers this year. I don't think that Geno Smith, who's one of the more efficient quarterbacks in the NFL, I don't think he's going to be turning the ball over. I'm going to go under.
We're one of 2 teams in the NFL right now, the Giants are, that do not have a single takeaway. So when you look at that fact right there, I'm going to take the under, 1.5. I mean, hopefully they get more than that, but not one interception and not one fumble cause. This defense needs to step up. Sometimes they come in bunches,
right?
But I'm still going to take the under on this.
I'm going to take the under as well. I'm hoping for one. I'm going to hope for one, but they haven't gotten one yet this season. Geno Smith has had just 1 turnover on the season for Seattle, so I'm going to take the under as well. Finally, over under 100 rushing yards for the Giants, Sean.
Well, 2 weeks ago, Matt and I would have been over on this all day long, but with Saquon Barkley questionable, the rushing offense has really, it's kind of stalled a little bit. Obviously, last week, the game dictated that. I'm going to go under on this one, although I think Daniel Jones could have a big rushing day.
I think the Giants are going to go under this week just because the way that the 49ers kind of dominated the offensive line of the New York Giants, they just weren't opening up holes. And it just doesn't seem like an emphasis of this team. They're not really focused on running the ball. The only runs really come consistently this year have been through with Daniel Jones with using his feet. So I just don't think that this team is all of a sudden going to change their stripes and become a running attack that's going to run the ball enough times to create a 100-yard rushing game.
I agree. I mean, we saw the way that the Giants struggled to run the ball in Week 3 against San Francisco, putting up just 29 rushing yards, of course, in the absence of Saquon Barkley. If Saquon can't go again on Monday night, I don't think that the threat of the run is going to be enough for the defense to key in on it. I just don't see them going over 100 yards on Monday Night Football. But that's a wrap for Week 4 Over-Under, brought to you by the New York Lottery. Let's send it back to Bob.
Well, Carl, the Giants don't have a takeaway yet. They need to start creating some turnovers, but not do it recklessly.
Yeah, you know what? Those turnover opportunities will come. They don't have a takeaway, but they had takeaway opportunities. And you've got to be able to capitalize on that. In terms of turning the ball over, you got to tackle first, and then the ball will come second.
And the Giants need more production out of their running game, whether Saquon Barkley plays or not, don't they?
Yeah, and that starts with, the line up front. Everybody's got to be assignment conscious, play physical football.
All right, we're going to come back and go to the coach's tape with Carl Banks and strategy, all that and much more here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Reminder, fans, on October the 2nd, when the Giants host the Seattle Seahawks for Monday Night Football, the Giants will be celebrating Latino Heritage Month in partnership with Ford and supported by Duncan, PNC Private Bank, and the City College of New York. Fans attending are encouraged to arrive early to enjoy sampling of Latin cuisine, dance exhibitions, live music, giveaways, and more. The dedicated tailgate zone will be located just outside of the Verizon Gate. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Giants and Seahawks Monday Night Football. Time for strategy with Carl Banks. Carl, we're going to go to the coach's tape. This is a very physical team,
Yes.
the Seattle Seahawks. They're 2-1 on the season, and it starts with their running game with Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker here, Bob, is a guy who can run in any gap at any given run. So there's really no set design. He may start here and end out here. So as a defense, if you've got the edge, set it. If you got this gap, set it. Set it, set it, set it. You've got to corral a guy like Walker, because as you can see, I'll start the play. He'll start anywhere. Now he goes in one, so he's not here anymore. You've got a defender, he's got to be up the field, but if he's not, stuck on a block. He just keeps searching and searching until he finds it, and you got an edge player here. If you run this here, it ends up here on the edge. This edge player has to be free. He's got to free his hands up. Here's the guy getting blocked. But with Walker, you've got to keep your hands free and be able to come off blocks, and he's got speed once he gets to a hole.
And it was really cool to see, too, on the handoff there, Carl. He froze for a fraction of a second and eyeballed the middle linebacker.
Yeah, he wants to freeze and give the linebacker one look, and then he just starts to move from there. Here it is again. The same principles apply. He makes it to the edge, but your edge guy, he's dancing. You can't dance. You've got to be free to come off the block, and Walker sees it. Now, the edge guy is doing his job until he didn't. And he's no longer an edge guy, and Kenneth Walker just walks into the end zone.
Tremendous vision. Now, the Giants saw this with Deebo Samuel when they played against San Francisco. They're going to see it again with DK Metcalf, who is a big, strong, physical wide receiver.
He's a big, strong, physical wide receiver, but he works with his quarterback. When his quarterback is on the move, he knows that Metcalf will be there wherever he goes. And here's a classic example of this. Down here at the bottom of the screen,
Looks pretty covered.
He's looked covered. Quarterback's here. Now, when the quarterback scrambles out, Metcalf uncovers, quarterback's here, and they see each other. Defense loses him. Now, he's hard to get down, too. As you can see, big physical guy. I'll run this back again. So your work is not done with Metcalf once you cover him. You got to stay with him the entire length of the play. Take a look. Runs a quick slant, covered. He uncovers, quarterback finds him. So once you have him covered, you've got to plaster to him.
And then he winds up getting 8 more yards after he actually makes the catch.
Just big physical play.
Big physical play. One more look at DK Metcalf here.
So he's a free release off the line of scrimmage. This is not a great ball by any stretch of the imagination. He's going here. Now, maybe the quarterback's throwing him out of danger, but he catches it on his shoelaces and then just finishes in the end zone. Big, strong, and physical.
So that's what the Giants are going to have to deal with: physicality, vision, and a lot of interesting weapons on the offensive side of the ball. That's Carl Banks with strategy. When we come back, Above the Numbers here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October the 8th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt, and after the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Time for this week's edition of Above the Numbers with Paul Dottino and Amani Toomer.
So we've got to focus on 3 particular players going into this Seahawks-Giants game. Amani, who is up first above the numbers?
Well, you want to get the best athletes the ball in their hands, so that's why you got to throw it to the wide receivers.
Of course.
But, this is a guy who has a lot of fanfare coming out of Kentucky. They drafted very high last year, had a knee injury. Now he's back. He's his first game. He had 4 receptions for 21 yards. But that's just a taste of what we expect from him. We expect this guy is going to be a great outlet. When you have an offense that struggles, what you need to have is playmakers that can not only catch the ball, but catch the ball, turn upfield, and make something happen, create plays out of nothing. That's why you got to get Wan'Dale Robinson the ball. You got to understand that he can give you some extra downs, and with his explosive speed, can also be a game breaker.
Yeah, looking for that yak yardage, Amani. Remember, when he hurt his ACL last year in that Detroit game, he had 9 catches for 100 yards. Looked very explosive. When he was at Kentucky before he came to the Giants, he averaged 13 yards a catch on over 100 receptions. So we know he can make big plays. Now, one note to keep in mind, Seattle has allowed 14 receptions this year of 20 or more yards, including 2 of at least 40 yards. So you can hit big plays against them. All right, my guy this week is defensive tackle A'Shawn Robinson. Now, he's a big man and stuffs the run really, really well. Last week, you see the 5 tackles. That was only on 45 snaps against San Francisco. Very, very productive for him. Both of those numbers were season highs. Now, Seattle, they have averaged 3.2 yards per carry when running directly up the middle. That's on 17 attempts. They run directly behind center more often than any other place behind the offensive line. So Robinson backing up Dexter Lawrence could be a major factor in this game Monday night.
Yeah, that's running game for the Seattle Seahawks. When it gets going and it gets downhill, that offensive line is very physical. This is something that the Giants are going to have to stop. The fact that this running game is a very formidable one.
Okay, now let's look at who the Giants need to keep below the numbers, and it's linebacker Jordan Brooks. And this guy's been doing it for a while.
So Jordan Brooks is the second leading tackler on the team behind Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner left last year and went to the Rams and then came back. And last year, Jordan Brooks took full advantage of it by being the leading tackler, really showing what he could do. But now Bobby Wagner's back. Jordan's back to the outside, and now you have 2 very strong linebackers that are tackling machines. This is the heart of this defense. So this is another challenge for the Giants offensive line to really not only block the man, the down lineman, be able to come off of those blocks and double team up to the second level and go after the most productive in tackling department.
Amani, you really do have to get a hat on Brooks. 4th year in the NFL. Back in 2021, he set an all-time Seattle Seahawks record with 183 tackles in one season. Believe it or not, that's 14th all-time in single-season annals of NFL history. Now, one thing I will tell you, though, in 50 games with the Seahawks, he has been hit for 10 touchdown passes. You can throw against him. We'll see if the Giants can do some business on Monday night. Well, that'll do it for Above the Numbers this week. Let's go back to Bob.
Carlos, we talked about in strategy the physical running game of the Seahawks. Obviously, last week, Kenneth Walker had 97 yards rushing in their win. So the Giants are going to have to be much better against the run to have any chance to win.
Yeah, the thing with Kenneth Walker is he's not a one-hole guy. He's got lots of jump cuts. So the objective is to get as many people to the football as possible.
And getting Wan'Dale Robinson more and more acclimated as far as big third down plays and that quickness and shiftiness that he has.
Yeah, I mean, working in space is something that he's very good at. And if you can get in those favorable down and distance situations, he can be an asset.
When we come back on the program, Coach Daboll rejoins us here on the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Welcome back to the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford. Monday night, MetLife Stadium. It's the Giants and Seahawks. Time for Three Things with Madeline Burke.
It's week 4 and the Giants are back at MetLife Stadium to face the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. I'm Madeline Burke with 3 things you need to know. When the Giants play the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, it'll have been 23 days since they last played at home. This will be the third of 4 primetime games in the first 6 weeks of the season for the Giants, more than any other team in the NFL in that span. The Giants are facing a Seahawks team with one of the most potent offenses in the NFL. They put up over 30 points in each of their last 2 games. Meanwhile, the Giants offense has struggled, putting up a total of 43 points on the season. And Seahawks safety Jamal Adams is set to make his season debut on Monday night. The 3-time Pro Bowler looks to bolster a Seattle defense that has given up the 4th most points per game this season. Now, Adams hasn't played since week 1 of 2022 when he tore his quad. That's a wrap for 3 things you need to know in week 4. Back to you.
And we're joined by Coach Daboll once again as the Giants take on the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Seattle's 2-1 on the season. They had a good overtime win in Detroit against the Lions and then a hard-fought game against Carolina. They ran the ball well, and DK Metcalf is kind of like what you saw last week with Deebo Samuel, big, physical, strong receiver.
Yeah, I think that their offense is explosive offense with Metcalf, with Walker, with Lockett, who seems like he's been there forever and just keeps on making plays. Another young guy from UCLA and Charbonnet, Njigba. They have a lot of talented, skilled players, and they've scored a lot of points these last 2 weeks. So they can run the ball. Gino's done a great job of distributing it. They can get vertical. They can run the bootleg game. It's results, I think, speak for themselves. 237 points games in a row.
Coach, it doesn't seem like there's much love lost. I remember after the game in Seattle, a lot of the players were pretty like, we're going to see these guys again. Looking forward to playing them. Is this kind of like that West Coast rival where it was the teams matched up and the players just did not want to lose that game?
Yeah, I just think we got a lot of respect for how Pete does things over there and their program, and they play tough, they play physical, and they're a good football team, so you always want to compete against good football teams, and they're in the NFC, so got a lot of work to do catching up on these guys this week, and want to make sure we're ready to go.
The rookie corner, Witherspoon, had 11 tackles, a couple passes defended. Obviously, he was a high pick in the draft. What makes him a unique talent?
Yeah, I did a lot of work on him coming out of the draft, and is a really good football player. Him and you pair him up with Woolen, who was an outstanding player last year. They have 2 really good edge players of their defense in terms of corners. Can play man-to-man, can read the quarterback well, can make plays on the ball, are physical. They're 2 really good young corners.
What about their front? I know they had a couple sacks in the game the other day. And then they re-add Bobby Wagner to the mix, who's always been a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, he's the centerpiece of their defense and kind of gets everything lined up. And they're always on the same page. They can stunt and move a little bit on you up front. They're quick, disruptive. They have a good team all the way around. It shows.
Final question, Coach. When you played in Arizona, there were so many Giants fans there that it almost disrupted the Cardinals late in the ball game. Now you got this game at home, Monday Night Football in MetLife Stadium. Talk about what the crowd means to your football team.
Yeah, I've said it before. We have unbelievable fans, and it's our job to go out there and produce, to give them stuff to get riled up about. The first game we had was an electric atmosphere. Unfortunately, the results and the standard of performance wasn't there, but these guys have been awesome since I've been here, and again, it's our job to go out there and put a good product on the field.
Coach, appreciate a couple minutes. Best of luck this week.
Thanks.
This week's game is presented by Grayscale, the official digital currency asset management partner of the New York Giants. So for Coach Daboll, Carl Banks, and our entire crew, I'm Bob Papa. Make sure you watch Giants post-game live right after the game for instant analysis of the Giants and Seahawks. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Coach Daboll Show, presented by Ford.